Hey guys, this is Richard from Tech. Right, this video is how to choose the correct PC parts. Okay, now you generally depends on what you're doing. If you're a gamer, you go for the highest clocked CPU. That's usually Intel. Or if you're doing workstation, back years ago. It used to be if you wanted the amount of cores, you'd have to go to Intel. But these days, if you want to do video editing or multitasking or anything, you've got AMD, which do a very good price to performance, especially with their Ryzen. That is where you're gonna get the most money, the most performance for the money. On the other hand, then you've got Intel, and that's basically still the gaming king for the best frames per second on gaming. It's Intel. It really depends on what you're planning to do, really. If you're planning to game, generally I'd say if you're gonna game as in very high frames, you're gonna buy like a high frame refresh rate monitor, perhaps over 100, more over 100 hertz. If you're going over that, then obviously you're gonna have to have the best CPU to keep up the frames. Generally that's Intel, but if you're someone like me, only does 75 hertz at 1440p, and I only play now and then games, I went Intel because I was upgrading from an i5 3570K, which lasted me about 3-4 years. I mean, it was getting on at that time. That's when 6-core started being utilized and stuff like that more in games. Okay, so it's usually right. So it's Intel for gaming and AMD for production. But if you've seen any other YouTubers reviews or guides or anything, that AMD is starting to starting to beat Intel. Now if they bring out the next Ryzen out now, the fourth gen, I am telling you now that by the looks of the graphs and all the performances I've seen on everyone else's reviews of Ryzen, AMD is going to be the gaming king. If they continue the way they are, if they can do a 6-core with 12 threads, but it also beats an 8-core i7 9700K, for instance. If it can beat that, then you're talking, and the scales are going to start to go AMD more than Intel. Obviously Intel now, they've always been good at the enterprise stuff, basically like servers and stuff like that. But since AMD brought out Epic, that's starting to change, right? So basically gaming is usually Intel, production is usually Ryzen at this point. Ryzen prefers higher clocked RAM. Intel, it doesn't affect as much with Intel. Motherboards, it really does depend on you. I went with an ASRock Extreme 4 because it was a new platform for me, and I wanted a good quality motherboard where I could do overclocking, because I've got an 8600K in here that's overclocked to 4 GHz on all cores, on all 6 cores at 24 hours. That's every time I run my computer. It's at 4 GHz. It can go to 4.7, but really, I don't really want that extra performance. 6 cores at the moment is okay with me. I'm planning to go at Ryzen after this, but still, motherboard, it depends on your features. If you want Wi-Fi, you pick a good motherboard that's got Wi-Fi. If you want overclocking, then obviously, and you've got to pick a motherboard that's capable of overclocking. The thing you've got to realize is the VRMs. If you've got more VRMs on the motherboard, as well as the more capacitors, the transistor, the more money and R&D that's put into a motherboard specifically for overclocking a CPU, that is the best choice to go if you want to do overclocking. Gaming, I don't suppose it really matters, but if you're planning to be a gamer, also overclocking, then obviously it's best to go with maybe a motherboard that's more in the middle. Usually, like I used to go for like ASUS or MSI, because back then they were the kings. Not so much Gigabyte or ASRock, because Gigabyte, yes, they had good motherboards, but not really high-end motherboards. ASRock was the same. ASRock was known as a crappy competitor, talking 9-10 years ago. So now ASRock's there, up there with ASUS and MSI for gaming motherboards. Storage these days, SSDs is fine. There's a minimal difference in performance when it comes to game launches between SSD and NVMe. I have seen a difference. It's only a few seconds extra you get on the load times on games. Usually with NVMe it's better when I'm actually working on more than one thing. If I'm doing, say if I'm on Google or Chrome and stuff like that, that snappiness is brilliant. Obviously hard drives are obviously going to be mass storage. Mine, I got a 1 terabyte. That keeps most of my games that I've got installed, as well as all my YouTube videos that I upload and everything, all the raw files and stuff, they get put into a folder called my YouTube folder. It's got my thumbnails and everything, so that's it. Power supplies, things are so efficient these days. I went for 1000 watt power supply. I did it just in case I wanted to maybe upgrade to dual GPUs, but also it gives me headroom. I can keep that same power supply. It's a Platinum Corsair 1000, so it'll last me a while, and when I'm actually gaming, I think it doesn't even hit peak, which is quite amazing. Cases, that's aesthetic. If you're into like white cases like I've got, then go for that. You know, cable management obviously is a thing, but still. Peripherals, that's your own thing. Me, I've got mechanical keyboard ever since switching from normal gaming SteelSeries motherboard keyboard. I like the clickiness of a mechanical. I like the strokes, especially the typing. I like that. Mouse, I usually go for a gaming type mouse with a high DPI, because when I do play games, I really prefer a fast response on the mouse. If it's too slow for me, then I start making mistakes. I've done it on GTA, everything. So that's why when I play other games, especially shooter type games, I usually use a gaming mouse. Now, gaming mouse with certain software aspects. I've got M2, which has got also built-in software. I keep it at the medium setting, which is okay. Any too higher and I start feeling a bit dizzy and stuff, but that's it really. Monitors, that's 1080p is still the king. 1080p is still the king. But I believe that 1440p in the next year is going to turn out to be the king, because I went from 1080p to 1440 and I saw a hell of a difference in graphics. Hell of a difference. So, you know, it really does depend. If you're a gamer, I suggest Intel. If you want to be something like me, sorry about that, Ryzen wasn't out, so now these days you can either have Intel. That is obviously going to be the best for gaming. For FPS gaming is Intel, but since Ryzen is on the up on the gaming scales, it's basically your own preference. If you want the more cores, go for the more cores. If you don't, then go Intel. But I suggest you go Ryzen, especially like a 3600, because that's got 6 cores and 12 threads. I mean, you may not get all 6 cores of like 4.2 or 4.3. It says on the box, but your motherboard, your RAM and stuff, blah, 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 that really does depend. But this is Richard from Welshie Tech. This is just me advising you how to choose your PC parts correctly. I'm telling you how I chose it for certain features, but certain aspects I like. So yeah, don't forget to hit that like or dislike button. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that ding, so then you know when a new video comes out. Also, visit my Facebook group. It's Welshie Tech. I've got a lot of